Hey guys, sorry to interrupt the video, however, I do have something to talk to you guys about. It's over the Drawstreams project, and if you guys don't know, I'm going to be doing the Drawstreams project. I know I haven't uploaded any Speedpaints so far, and that's because I only upload Speedpaints on Fridays. So if you guys are interested in watching these Speedpaints, go and watch them on Fridays when they come up. If you want to see the projects before Friday, and what I have so far, you can follow me on Instagram, roseserpent_IRL, or you can follow me on Tumblr, roseserpent. You can follow me on DeviantArt as roseserpent as well. If you guys want to keep participating in the list, there is openings in the list. So please, please, please comment in the comments saying the theme that you want me to draw and a day. If that day is not available, don't worry. I will move it to the closest day possible to when you had requested it. So in that way you still get your theme. First come, first serve for the days. The themes, if the theme is already existent, I will let you know. And if you're unhappy with that, you can go on ahead and make a different theme for me and send it to me. So there is that, and I'm not going to go and take the time to announce what I have so far, but I'll go on ahead and let you guys do all that. Another thing that's up and running is the fact that on October 30th, I'm going to be doing a project over my friends, which is for the Drawstreams project, and then on October 31st is the Streamer's Surprise, which is basically a reward for everyone that participates in my Saturday Drawstreams. If you participate in the Saturday Drawstreams, you will be drawn in one of my illustrations for the Drawtober project. If you want to see yourself drawn in one of my projects, I highly recommend you go and watch every Saturday Drawstream up until October 31st. That means you do have to participate and talk. I don't really know who is in the stream until you say something. I'm not looking at the list of people that are there, just the fact that you are talking. And I have everybody who's been there memorized. I can go through and write it down, and I can write down your request as well if you want to verbally say, hey, I want teddy bears on the 13th. I don't know, just an example. So I will write it down. Usually I'm really good about requests, so let's try and keep that going. So yeah, if you guys want to be illustrated on the Saturday Drawstream, I highly recommend you go and watch every Drawstream up until the 31st. So there is that to look forward to, and I hope you guys enjoy the video. I'll talk to y'all next time. Get that shit on out of here. Okay, so welcome back to Tutorial Tuesday. Today we're covering shading, which includes the line part where I changed the color of the lines. Initially, I never really did that before. I maybe started doing that February, March, around there. But basically, we're going to talk about the shading portion of your subject. I do my shading a little bit different from other people. Some people will go in and they'll do like black, and then they'll turn the fill down, and then they'll do purple and they'll turn the fill down. I don't do that. I like to try and match the color as best as I can. So I go in and I make a shade darker, and then I scribble it on there how I want, where the lighting is not touching. And I'm going in and I'm just kind of like using a soft brush, and you know, that way I don't have to blur it later, because I learned that the blurring part just didn't actually look right to me. So I would go in and I would make it a little bit darker every time until I liked the way it looks. And then of course how I arrange it is based upon how the lighting is set. And that's why I do the background before I do the shading, is because lighting comes from the background, not from the subject. And of course, if you're working with a pattern, I suggest you make your own, like a separate layer from the rest of the shading. And then you go over that and you try and get a similar color to what the flat color was, and then you make it darker to where it is dark enough to cover the pattern that you have. And the reason why I say use a separate layer instead of using the same layer as your shading is because you're going to turn the opacity or the fill down, so that way the pattern shows through a little bit but still is shaded. I don't know if what I'm saying makes sense, but it looks right. And you're going to go over everything and kind of just figure out what works for you, and just shade it how you want it, and just based off of the lighting. If the lighting is going one way, don't make your shading go the same way. It needs to go the opposite direction. In other words, if your light is hitting the right side of your person, don't put the shading on the right side of your person. Put it on the left. because the light is bouncing off of there, and it's kind of just grazing across towards, so it's kind of like a, I guess for you guys, a gradient. So yeah, the gradients would have to be it. One thing I can recommend though for color is you don't go straight downward. You kind of go at an angle to where you're pointed more so towards the color instead of the grayscale. That way your color doesn't gray out or black out, and instead it looks nice and it looks like the color. I had a problem where I would go towards the gray and it just didn't look right, I guess. It just didn't seem right. And I know that colors don't necessarily darken as shading, but it looks way better on art than it does in, you know, to just go with the black or gray. Skin color is one of those main things that really made me think, hey, I should go towards the color instead of away from the color. Because I realized the skin is not gray. Caucasians are not white, they're not gray, they're pink or yellow or whatever, I don't know, but that color doesn't go away. Instead it just intensifies. And sometimes I know, like, I'm trying to find the best way to word this. When you're making orange, I know that if you go down, you're making it brown, I think it's brown. And I know that the base color is different from what you end up with whenever you are shading. So like, it's hard to explain because I don't know all of the exact terms, and I'm sure not everyone knows the exact terms either, so if I used them it wouldn't work. But everyone's skin tone is different based upon the lighting. So you'll go in and you'll see me use, for repetitive characters that I draw, like Delirious or my persona, or I don't know if I draw Vanillas that often, but repetitive characters that I draw more often than not, you'll see that I kind of I'll select the original color from the original portrait that I did, and then I'll either make it a brighter color or a darker color, or I'll just change the skin tone. And that's because the lighting of the portrait that is going on. So in the background, the light could be all soft pinks and yellows, which means that the skin is going to be tinted with these pinks and yellows instead of just being the original flat color. It's so hard to explain this shit. So there's that, and then hair is another thing. Sometimes I add the detail, sometimes I don't. This project I didn't think I really wanted to add the detail because I had a cap on him. So what I usually do when I'm drawing hair is I'll do little triangles. They're a little bit more softened out, rounded out, with lines, and not just this flat, sharp triangle. It's more rounded in some areas, you know, kind of like how I illustrate the hair. So you'll see these little random tufts if the hair is messy. If it's not, then usually if I don't have messy hair on a character, I'll do not necessarily a flat line, but during my shading, I'll kind of like sharpen the shading to where it's not flat on there or rounded out. So if the hair is nicely kept and flat down, then you'll see the sharp lines of the hair strands. Of course, I'm using OBS, which I didn't really start using when I made this project. When I initially started making this project, I was using Debut, which is a screen recorder. So there's no pause button on on OBS, sadly, which is what I missed so bad. But Debut started glitching out, and so I'm not going to use Debut no more. I'm trying to get into the habit of just not pausing and just keep going and just keep working. So yeah, that'll be interesting. Oh no, errors are my nightmare. Make sure you save. I don't think I ever mentioned this, but whenever you're working on a project, make sure you save every 10 seconds at least. Because I hate for you to have to go through that problem where you just are working so hard and you forget to save, and then all of a sudden your computer crashes or the system crashes and you lose everything. It's a nightmare. So basically what I just did was I went into my background layer and I selected the entire background. And then I went to my flats layer and deselected everything around the main subject. And I made my new layer, and I went and filled it with any color really. And the reason why I do that is because it's going to add a different effect later on in, when I get back to it. I originally started doing this a long ass time ago, and I stopped doing it, and now I'm bringing it back. So I can't. I'm selecting all of the lines, and I'm going through and I'm selecting the darkest shade there is. And I'm not really the darkest shade there is, but the darker shade that I have put on top of the illustration already. And I'm making it just a little bit darker so the lines stand out a little bit more. Typically, whenever you're shading, you have like shadow underneath the neck. I kind of did that, but not to an extreme like I usually do. And it's kind of the project isn't necessarily dark, and the lighting isn't terribly poor in the project either. So I didn't see a need in having the shading being so dark underneath the neck. And the reason why the shading underneath the neck would be there is because your head is over your neck, and anything that's over anything casts a shadow over it. That's not bad. And again, I sometimes have to go and change the color, and make sure that for the lines I made, make sure that the line is a little bit darker, so that way the lines are able to be seen, especially by me, because fuck, that's a nightmare. That's why I start out with the black lines, is because I can't see shit. And usually I don't know what the fuck I'm doing anyway, so what's the point in going with color if I don't know what I'm gonna use for the color? Oh. Make sure you have everything selected. It's a pain in the ass to go in and have to select more of it. You can hold down shift and use the magic wand tool to select everything and not lose your place. If you're on your phone, on your computer anyways. Some people do on their phone. I don't necessarily do it on my phone, and I don't imagine I'll be doing anything on my phone for this channel because I have a computer. Also, if you want to remove the little lines and dashes that you got going on with what's selected, you can go to your view tab and then select extras, and it'll just turn everything to where you don't see any of the extra pieces. And if you don't want to go back and reselect the view tab, that's easy to fix. You can just go to your magic wand tool and select or deselect an item. Then you can see your lines. It's fucking early. Well, not really. I'm really excited for Halloween. I'm excited for the Drawstreams project. I've so far gotten day 1 and day 2 done, and it being Tuesday already, I'm still working on the Tuesday project. So far what I've got is day 1 clown, day 2 creepy, day 3 spider, and for day 10 pumpkin. And then on day 20 I've got toys. So there's more spaces left, and of course I've got the freak show and the streamer surprise for the 30th and the 31st. So yeah, I'm really excited about this. If you guys want to go and see those projects before the speed paint, you guys can go follow me on Instagram, or you can find them on Tumblr. And then right now I haven't updated, I tongue-tied for a second there, updated anything on DeviantArt. I've been meaning to, but I just haven't touched it yet. So if you guys want to go see stuff on there, go ahead and check it out. No promises that I have anything on DeviantArt just yet by the time you guys watch this video. So hopefully by tomorrow I'll be better about that. I'm trying to get back into using my social medias and getting all into that, so that's gonna be fun. I'm terrible at staying updated with my social medias, if anybody's noticed. Hair is one of those things where you kind of just have to, sometimes you'll have to have black lines, other times you won't, because hair is so different. So like if you have brown hair and the project is on the darker side, I suggest you use black for your lines instead. Also, instead of just covering my black lines, what I did was I had a separate layer, and I kind of just decided in case I screwed up or something, I just had that extra layer just to be careful and had it traced over the original lines. And now we're back to my old way of doing things, which was selecting the entire subject, going into the gradients tab, which is underneath the paintbrush, and making a gradients of some sort. Again, I don't see gradients, so I don't know if it looks nice or not, but I remember in college my instructor lecturing me big time about not using gradients and needing to use gradients. So that was one thing I did, and then for right now, what I'm doing right now is I copied the the flat pink that was there, and I went in and I started erasing specific areas. The reason why I started doing that is to highlight light. So I'm adding on more light onto the photo, giving it more color, more detail, more texture. And I decided later that I didn't like some of it, so I would go through and rearrange it. And it's kind of just play by ear. Do you like it? Do you not like it? What do you think is good about it? You know, and it's up to you on how this looks, because you know, I can only help you so far with that. And then I went in and I did a Gaussian blur. And Gaussian blur is what animators use. Like if you ever watch Teen Titans, not Teen Titans Go, but the original Teen Titans, what they would do is they would, for Raven, if you remember Raven, her eyes would glow white. They would Gaussian blur the eyes. They would fill like the eyes with the white, and then they would Gaussian blur the white. And they would go to a specific ratio, and then they would go and make that layer again and again and again until it looked like it was glowing. That's kind of what I started doing for anything that glows. That's how I figured that one out. That, and I already knew that they were using Gaussian blur. And this is where I said that I was going in and shading and kind of just deciding as to what I wanted to do. So I was darkening up in some areas and others I wasn't. And then I went and decided this isn't working, so let's use the brush tool, turn it purple. That's purple. Yeah, purple. And go and Gaussian blur it as well, and turn the fill down to where it's transparent. You can do the opacity or you can do the fill. The fill keeps the color, the opacity doesn't necessarily do that. I would use the opacity for glass, water, and things like that. But fill I would use for everything else. Some people, whenever they do their shading, they use multiply or screen in where the normal tab is. So I think that's about it, guys.